Hey, welcome to SportsBeat Live, the Kansas City Stars chat about the Chiefs. It's the post-game edition tonight. We're going to talk about the Chiefs' 35-31 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday Night Football. Hope you can join us with your questions and comments. We will get to as many of them as we can. What a night for the Chiefs. It was a terrific game. I'm going to go over it with the guys who cover the team, Herbie Teope and Sam Mcdowell, Sam Mellinger, and Vahe Gregorian will be joining us as they are finishing up their stories that'll appear on kansascity.com here in the next few minutes. But let's, speaking of guests, here's Vahe. What's up, Vahe?
What's up, Blair? I've decided to leave the other mission and come on in on this one. I know you could handle it by yourself, but I'm glad to keep holding your hand.
Yeah, glad to see you, Vahe. Let's you and I we'll get it going with quite a game, quite a night. I just figured this out a few minutes before I came into the studio. You know, the Chiefs trailed 5 different times tonight.
I hadn't thought it through that much, but it was like almost one of those games where you want to go to the basketball play-by-play sheet that lists how many lead changes there were, because it really was a little dizzying that way. And we had the good fortune to be able to sort of watch together here in the newsroom, nicely distanced, of course. And I think we both felt like you did not know what this was going to come down to, maybe until the last 143, when you thought, well, they got the ball last with Mahomes. You couldn't help but feel like you liked their prospects.
Well, the discussion you and I were having was as the Raiders were at the shadow of the goal line at about the 2-minute mark, would it be prudent to let the Raiders score here and take a 3-point lead and give Patrick Mahomes and the offense that much time to get down the field? And I don't know of what mind you were, but I was absolutely thinking let him score.
I was right on the fence, but I'll tell you what, I was about 30 seconds away from thinking they just got to do it. They were lucky. I guess they went in past the 2-minute warning with all 3 timeouts, right? Then Andy took one with 1:53. Was a little mad that they started to put it at 1:47 or something. But I guess there was method to the madness. I mean, one thing that changed at Blair was when they got the Raiders got that offside. That made it more of a dilemma almost, right? Because I was kind of on board with just throw them into the end zone when they had 1st and goal and a second 1st and goal after that penalty. So, but then that other penalty changed it. But the first thing, and I think you probably did this too, when the Raiders scored, first thing I did was look at the clock and thought 1:43. It's like
with a timeout.
The Raiders were the ones that needed to drain more clock, as it turned out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the turns out the Patrick Mahomes didn't need 1:43 to get him down the field. Had 28 seconds to go on the 22-yard touchdown pass to Travis Kelce, and we determined after the game, on a night when the Chiefs had 460 total yards of offense and tied a franchise record with 36 first downs, that touchdown pass was the longest play of the game for the Chiefs. How crazy was that?
Yeah, that I couldn't believe it when you told me that. I mean, it is interesting, right? That's kind of in harmony with the idea of the 36 first downs. There was, that they had 2 drives that were more than 7.5 minutes long, I think. Maybe more than 2 drives, but they had the 91-yard drive and their first drive was something akin to that too, 7:45 or something. So they were mulching up the clock, and it seemed like they made a firm commitment to kind of be more balanced, get the running game going more, be able to just have the chance for more play action. I sort of kept thinking they were setting them up, as I think you thought too, for the 81-yard Tyreek Hill touchdown pass, but that never really came.
It hasn't come all year, to be honest with you. we have not seen Tyreek Hill's speed, great speed, the way we saw it earlier in his career. And I just think that's the way teams are lining up defensively about to stop Hill and not let him get behind.
Yeah, you're right. And, it's funny. There were a lot of different moments in this game that created the narrative. But there was a moment, I think it was late in the first half. There was a play where the Raiders held both Hill and Kelsey. And right. it sort of seemed to say it all. There are probably a lot of other plays where they held both Hill and Kelsey, but they both got nabbed on that one. And, they're going to make them beat you with the other guys. And on a night where, you don't really have Hardman till the end anyway, and you didn't have Sammy Watkins again. That there was a lot to that was the way to go, right? Try to put it on them. But even when they did that with Kelsey and Hill, they couldn't contain them.
Sam Melliver's joined us. Hi, Sam.
What's up?
Hey, Sam.
Did we miscalculate our this week, thinking that the Chiefs would just take their frustrations out on a Raiders team that we thought they were just so much better than? And the Raiders coming into Arrowhead and winning earlier this year, there would be a kind of a name that score sort of outcome for the Chiefs, almost like what we saw at Baltimore earlier this year. The Raiders proved more worthy than that, don't you think, Sam?
Yeah, I was look, the offense was kind of everything that we've come to expect from those guys, right? But defensively, I didn't think that we would see another game where they couldn't pressure Derek Carr. That was the biggest surprise to me of the night. And I don't know if John Gruden's got to tell and he can tell, he can see where the rush is coming from and communicates that to Derek Carr or what, but they're just getting no pressure on him. And he is a really good quarterback without pressure. That sounds like a backhanded compliment. I don't mean it that way, but it was 7 full seconds. That last touchdown to Jason Witten, it was 7 full seconds from snap to throw. 7. And that was not
enough time.
Yeah, I mean, that was just like how it went. And the corners are just not. This team is built for that pressure. That's how they approach the draft. That's how Steve Spagnuolo calls plays. Like that's how they approach free agent. The whole deal. And if they can't do that, the corners aren't going to be able to, to stay with guys, especially as good as the Raiders receivers.
I was reminded in the middle of all this of Spag's quote from earlier this week, which I'm sure he had hoped was just going to be a reference to the last game. But Derek Carr was a step ahead of me all game. It sort of felt like that again tonight.
Yeah. And I thought, like, I was surprised that, the one Thornhill thing, I'm sure that's on your list, Blair, and stuff to get to. That surprised me, because that's a fast guy that can run with some guys. L'Jarius Sneed didn't seem like he was on the field all that much, coming back from injury. So it was a mess defensively.
So much so that at one point we got a 3-second clip from NBC that there was a little bit of a dust up on the Chiefs sideline. We don't know what that was about. I do not believe it was addressed after the game in the post game. But hey, Herbie is in the house. Hey, Herbie, how you doing?
Peace, my brothers.
Good to see you. So we got a lot of questions about personnel and with tonight's game. But the only injury that came out of tonight was Byron Pringle, I believe. Is that at least the only one that was announced?
It was just Pringle with the ankle injury. That was it.
Okay. So, yeah. So you asked about Andy Reid about Juan Thornhill. Was it just a coach's decision why he didn't play? And that apparently is what happened with Juan Thornhill tonight.
Yeah, it surprised a lot of us, especially when he said he's a situational guy right now. And then he added, we're still working him back in slowly, which to me is also another surprise because he has seen a lot of snaps over the first half of the season. But when he says that we're trying to work him back in slowly, I guess it does also make some kind of sense because we have to always remind ourselves that he's less than a year removed from the ACL injury from week 17 of the 2019 season. It's for him to even be on the field is remarkable given that he is less than a year removed from the ACL injury. But I'm going to, I was actually listening in on what Melly was saying, and I agree with him. The Chiefs offense, obviously, that they were, they stole the spotlight because Patrick Mahomes did the game-winning drive. But my goodness, coming off of a bye, and you saw all those defensive issues. They gave up 7 big plays, 7 explosive plays in week 5, defined obviously by plays of 20 or more yards. And the first drive with the Raiders, they gave up 2. And I was like, oh, here we go again. By my count, they gave us, obviously, that they were, they stole the.
So a lot of the questions are about the defense tonight. Chase Peoples, our buddy, asks, why can't our defense tackle? Paul Eccles, why does our front 4 never seem to create pressure on Carr? Good questions. Been 2 games worth, and he got sacked once in the game at Arrowhead. Didn't get sacked at all tonight, and had all kinds of time.
Just one quarterback hit.
One hit.
Man.
There was one sequence, Blair, and we were sort of, again, in harmony watching together, where it was interesting. You could see Carr go from first, second to third read in like less than a second, and with certainty, great conviction on the third read, just boom. And that happened so consistently when it was almost unfailingly. He put the ball in the right place, even when he's going not to his primary. So again, that reflects a lack of pressure. I did feel like he was getting rid of the ball fast too, but I'm not sure that would bear up to, really deep dive analytics either.
I thought he was on some snaps, but there were others where he was kind of sitting back there, and not 7 seconds necessarily like the Witten touchdown, but 2, 3, 4 seconds, and lofting it downfield. And it was just, it seemed like, got to watch the film, right? But it seemed like there were a lot of snaps where Chris Jones was next to either Noddy or Mike Pennell, and they're doubling Chris Jones and making Mike Pennell or Noddy do the pass rush. And that's just not what Pennell and Noddy are best at. I know there has to be more to it than that, right? It's more complicated than that, but it did seem like Chris Jones was getting a lot of double teams, which is fine. He's good enough to get double teams, but then somebody else has to come through.
Jordan Tribe was asking about McCole Hardman. Why did it take so long to get him in the game tonight? I don't know if he'd have played at all except for Pringle's ankle injury toward the end.
Yeah, Hardman's situation is unique because I think a lot of people forget now that he was on the COVID Reserve 19 list for for at least 2 weeks, and the Chiefs activated him on Saturday. And Melly brought up a good point, in our group exchange, our text messages. Sammy Watkins' surprising calf injury that popped up on the injury report on Thursday and Friday probably forced their hand. I don't think they wanted to bring him up on Saturday because when you don't practice, you're not there. Obviously he wasn't there because he was on the COVID-19 list. So he missed all the game installation. He missed all the plays. And now you activate him, and then he probably had to learn everything they installed on the plane ride to Las Vegas. So him not seeing a lot of action early didn't surprise me as much as the fact that they actually activated him.
Right. Okay. Peter Alden asked why Darrell Williams was on the 2-minute offense for both the game at the end of the game, end of the half. Well, because he always is, right? I mean, he's sort of their guy at the end in those situations. But I think that's a good entry point into how improved the running game was tonight, and just how more of an emphasis it seemed for the Chiefs to have success on the ground. Against the Jets and the Panthers, they had combined for 86 rushing yards in those 2 games. Mahomes put up incredible stats, and that's the Chiefs won them both. But I think it was important for the Chiefs to get the run game established tonight. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think this is his first multi-touchdown game as a Chief, and Le'Veon Bell got into the end zone for the Chiefs for the first time as a Chief, and just a good solid running game for Kansas City tonight. You guys think?
I certainly thought so. One thing, maybe it's a digression, but I am surprised Le'Veon Bell's not becoming a little more of a part of the passing game, though. And I thought there was more room for that tonight, maybe with how depleted they were at the actual wide receivers. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. Obviously, you pointed out that Darrell Williams seems to have a little niche going in those situations, but I thought that would be more of what we'd see of Le'Veon by now.
Terrence Warnell Robinson said defensive ends need to step up. Alex Okafor hasn't done much all year when he's been healthy. Tano's solid, but just doesn't provide much as a pass rusher. And he was covering Witten at the end.
Yeah. They caught him in coverage a couple times.
Yeah,
they did.
And if you can get Tano, I love Tano, but if you can get him isolated in space and coverage, that's doing something right.
Yeah, that one play when he was locked up on Darren Waller on the sideline, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
that was easy pickings.
By the way, speaking of oddities of the game, I just feel the need to interject. Demarcus Robinson really had an odd game.
Yeah.
I mean, that, the pinky face mask, the stretching out for the ball, going backwards, it could have been ruled incomplete. And then that key 4th and 2 catch, you really never know. He's like the Forrest Gump of this team, the box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Well, the interception, Patrick Mahomes,
that's why I wanted to start with.
waving him back, and basically DeMarcus Robinson took a wrong turn, and the Raiders cornerback made an interception on his knees because of it. So
Patrick covered for him, though, it seemed. That would be my hunch is how that went. Patrick was saying we both miscommunicated.
Well,
yeah.
That's not untrue. I'm sure there was a miscommunication between the two of them. But when you are a wide receiver 4 or whatever, and he is Patrick Mahomes, that is – there's only one way that went. There's one guy that was wrong there.
Yeah, I thought it was a rough game overall for Demarcus Robinson, except for that big the big catch he made, 4th down catch. And it stands in contrast, Vahe, you and I were talking about this, the game he had at the Raiders last year. They were in Oakland then, the last game at the Oakland Coliseum. He had that monster game, 2 touchdowns in the second quarter, and I think he hit his career high in receiving yards that day. He was just tremendous. But I just thought for all the little things that seemed to go wrong for him, he's been a wide receiver in this offense for 5 seasons now. I mean, you would think he'd know where to go on routes, and
it was more than that thing with reaching out with the ball in the wrong direction kind of is really odd. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, but he did it another time where it was not in the right direction. It was not going to help them, and it was risking ball security.
Okay, well, we've gone over the problems and issues for this Chiefs team, and in the pre-Patrick Mahomes years, we would spend a lot of time on what's wrong with these Chiefs, and the entire show would be devoted to, how they end up losing it at the end. But not these guys. They are they're something else, and just finding ways to win. You give the Chiefs the ball at the end of the game with a deficit, and I'm feeling pretty confident about the Chiefs' chances, and that ended up being one of their easier drives of the night. Did they have everything was on first? Just about every yard picked up on 1st and 2nd down, and how Kelsey was wide open in the end zone. The Raiders found a great time to bust coverage. So, what can we say about Patrick Mahomes that we haven't already said?
There were a couple things that stood out right there. One, going back to the Raiders' last drive. Just before that. And that there are a lot of Chiefs fans just hoping the Raiders get in real quick. Just score right now. Let them score if you have to, whatever, which is an insane thing, when there's still 2 minutes left. But that would have been the right move, to let them score because you've got this rocket ship, quarterback or whatever. And then but then what made that even more, stand out even more to me was after the game, somebody said, did you think about the question was posed to Andy Reid. Did you think about letting him score? And his answer was basically like, minute and a half, I got Pat Mahomes, I'm good. We can roll. Like, it was just sort of remember that Frank Caliendo deal with like the schedule release, and when he was Andy Reid, he was just like, like that was
15.
that was kind of that answer, and it's all true.
Yep. So after the game, we talked to, besides Mahomes and Reid, Travis Kelce and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Probably smart not to talk to anybody from the defensive side tonight, but both of them, both of the Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Chuck Kelce were saying, no, we felt pretty good about our chances down, with the entire field to go, only needing a field goal, but of course they want the touchdown and almost scored too soon. I mean, it's just incredible. And speaking of incredible, that's now 18 wins in their last 19 games, And so I'm, as I do every week, I'm doing the report card and the grades. And when the Chiefs fell behind late, I'm just thinking, there's a lot of D's and maybe an F, C, and all of a sudden in a minute, less than, a minute and a half, everything changes to A's and B's, and just because of one guy. And he's unbelievable.
Changed, haven't they? I mean, you think about that. Over the last 10, 15 years, how many quarterbacks can you name off the top of your head that you knew if you had 2 minutes or less, he was the guy you wanted under center? And, now all of a sudden Kansas City just enjoy the moment, because these kinds of quarterbacks don't come along very often. That's the truth.
No. Peter Alden made a good point about the Raiders fullback had a rough night. 2 big drops there in the fourth quarter for number 45 for the Raiders.
He made a couple good plays the game here. When he made some good plays there.
Yeah. So, I don't know. We got to revert back to the defense for a little while here. Does it? How concerning should it be for the Chiefs that this is a Raiders team that they're what are they, 6-4 now? Probably, I think it's a playoff worthy team. I think anybody who would have watched either of the Chiefs Raiders games would believe that they're a playoff worthy team. But the fact that the Chiefs have struggled with them twice, is that a cause for concern?
I think it's a major cause of concern when you consider the next opponent, because who is probably watching and breaking down every second of the plays. They got Tom Brady next. And, the Buccaneers have some weapons as well when you look at that offense. And the reason why the Raiders give the Chiefs so many issues is because of the offensive players that they have. I mean, to a player, at least the players that we got post-game, they were all highly complimentary. They're well coached. They got good players over there. And I'm concerned because you had a bye week. And this was what you had coming off of a bye week, and then you did this. And that's a major red flag for me.
Sam Mcdowell joins us. Hey, Sam.
I can't believe you guys started without me, but that's all right.
Well, we damn near finished without you. So. Hey, so what did you end up writing?
Don't ask me a question after that. I kind of broke down the game-winning drive, and I don't know whether it's a little bit obvious, but just the sheer confidence that everyone has in this guy. After the game, I mean, you guys were on that call. I asked Patrick Mahomes what he thought when he saw the Raiders score, and I don't think Patrick Mahomes is rarely this brief on his answers, but he just said that we're going to score. I just didn't know whether it was going to go to overtime or, if we were going to win it in regulation. And okay, that's it. And on the sideline, Clyde Edwards-Helaire turns to Darwin Thompson at some point and says, "We have Patrick Mahomes. I'm not worried about a thing right now." And it's just remarkable how different that is for what do you guys think? Probably half the rest of the league is probably thinking we're in a really tough spot right now. Their entire sideline, and justifiably so, is just thinking no big deal.
Don't you think it really felt like advantage Chiefs to them at that point? Okay, we're good. I mean, it really felt like that.
Yeah, and there was debate, and I don't know whether you guys have talked about it yet or not, about whether or not the Chiefs should let them score. Stop me if this is a topic you guys have already said.
We have, but what did you think?
Well, I didn't think that they should because they had 2 timeouts and they still had the 2-minute warning before the first down play. And my whole reason was I thought Patrick Mahomes was still going to have enough time, even if they tried to play that situation out and it didn't work out. They would need to use their timeouts after every Raiders play. Even the ones that were good, I thought, the only situation I thought they might get baited into was if they got a sack or something, they might not call timeout, and that wouldn't be a great spot for them. But as long as they called their timeouts, I just thought at worst case scenario, there would be a minute 40 on the clock without timeouts, because if the Raiders had scored on 4th down instead of 3rd down, they wouldn't have that timeout. And I just thought Patrick Mahomes can drive down the field and at least get a field goal in that amount of time. That's what Andy Reid thought too. He said he looked at the clock and said, there's still plenty of time. And I go back to it. How many teams are saying a minute and 40 is plenty of time on the clock?
I know. I'll tell you what, though. I was thinking back to the game 3 or 4 years ago at the Oakland Coliseum when Vahe and I were standing no more than, 20 feet, 25 feet away from the corner of the end zone where Derek Carr threw the game-winning pass and kept getting opportunities because of pass interference called in the end zone.
5 in a row.
Yeah, 5 in a row. And I'm just thinking that's how this game's going to end, right? The Chiefs will burn all their timeouts. They'll get it to 4th and goal, incomplete, pass interference on Charvarius Ward or Rashard Breeland or something. Whole new set, and the Raiders would end up winning it on the final play or something. But no, it turns out they scored too soon. They just scored too soon.
Not to overtake this, but I do wonder if we're going to see some teams in the future. I thought the Raiders could have played that previous drive differently for that reason. I thought they should have played that like a game-winning drive, that they shouldn't just want to score, but they should want to score and leave as little time as possible. They were focused on scoring, which I get it. You need a touchdown, not just a field goal in that situation. That's got to be the main objective. I just think against this team, you kind of want to make it twofold and have to have the things going in the same direction there rather than just trying to score.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good point. Let's not forget Dan Sorensen made a play at the end, right? Got the pick.
That's what he does.
That's right. That's what he does. It didn't cover Darren Waller. I was going to say didn't cover Darren Waller too well in the first half, but
that's not what he does.
Did not do that very well. So I don't know. Couple little things, right? Penalty. I was talking about we could see some pass interference penalties on that last. Chiefs were penalized 10 times for 89 yards tonight. They cannot have a kick or punt return now without a holding or blocking the back or whatever. That's just I can't believe a Dave Toub coached special teams can't get that cleaned up this late in the season. It's just hard for me to believe. And that
week. Off of a bye week.
A good point, Herbie. Also on a bye week. That means they started their best starting field position tonight was 27, and 4 of the 7 drives started at the 15 or worse. Now, it's the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. They seem to be okay when that happens, but man, just don't even just call fair catches and kick. And then Butker had a kickoff out of bounds. Just I don't know. I never used to think about Chiefs kicking, and now every kick seems to be an adventure. But Harrison Butker, as Chris Boone points out, did not miss an extra point the entire game. So that's a good thing.
I didn't realize he was only 2 in the NFL record.
It was going to the right, and I thought it was going to go out.
Yeah. But did we hear right that the NFL record is 8 and he's missed 6?
Is that right for a season?
I thought I heard that on the broadcast.
I didn't know that. All right, guys, it's late. Still got work to do. Got columns to finish. Got intros and outros to create and read and post and all that. So for Herbie Tiopi, Sam McDowell, great you can join us, Sam. Sam Mellinger, Vahe Gregorian, and our producer, Beth Welsh. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back with another broadcast sometime this week.